Good evening and welcome to Worldview Live on GBC 24. Here we tell the story of Africa and beyond. My name is George Asikri. Today our focus will be on the UN, and I'm sure we are all aware the 72nd ordinary session took place just some couple of days ago, and the United Nations UN, established in 1945, remains the most powerful organization of sovereign states. Originally with 51 members, the UN currently has about 193 members. The latest to join was South Sudan in 2011. The UN has 6 organs, and these organs are comprising of members who constitute them. But over the years, one of them, the Security Council, has been a thorn, at least as far as African leaders are concerned. They think that organ is not democratic and is not representative. At the session, Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo had cause to complain. He is of the view that that organ, and for that matter the UN, is not and should not be seen as undemocratic when the global body seeks to ensure fairness and democracy for all members. So he wants reforms. In there, so many issues crop up. The US President Donald Trump again on North Korea, and after that North Korea responded. We are here to examine issues that emerged out of that summit. My name again, George Asikri, and I have with me Iribad Ibrahim. He is the CEO of Iribad Security Consult, and is a security expert himself. Next to him is Professor Emmanuel Osei Siama. Prof is a lawyer, and is a governance expert, and he's a chartered accountant as well. Wow. So next to Prof is Mr. Kuku Jani. He's an international observer when it comes to security, when it comes to peace, when it comes to health. He's everywhere. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Worldview.
Good evening, George, and thanks for having us.
And I'm sure we are all excited because it has been a week that we should all be happy. Our president made some comments there. Many people were applauding him for that bold decision and comments he made. Just today, the dispute between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, the ruling came out, and Ghana won. And I keep saying largely Ghana won. So I'm sure it's good news for all of us.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
It's good
Job well
news.
done, by the way.
Well, let's move ahead with Mr. Iribad.
Yes, George.
UN Security Council and the UN. One will say that a body with 6 organs, why are we worried that one organ is not democratic from the days of Kwame Nkrumah till today?
I think the word wine has become quite predominant in our lexicon as local people or people in this country. The whining and whinging that has characterized the makeup of the UNSC is an age-old, problem. And I don't see how only one speech or one complaint from a president from a third world country can cause any tectonic shift in that arena. And again, historically, almost all Ghanaian presidents of the Fourth Republic have had cause to talk about Africa playing second fiddle to other countries because we don't have any permanent, representation on the UN Security Council. I think the feeling I have on this is quite ambivalent. In one breath, the UNO was not established in a vacuum. It took sacrifice, both in blood and resources, sacrifices of countries that were key as part of the Allied forces, and that parried off the genocide and carnage that was being perpetrated by the Axis forces between 1939 and 1945. So as it were, those were the corner blocks, the very fundamental bricks that were used in bringing together or cobbling together nations at that time to form the United Nations. So therefore, they were cherry-picked based upon their instrumentality. That is why Germany is a much stronger economy than both France and the UK but the European representation does not include Germany because of the role Germany played in the Second World War. So that historical antecedent plays to the benefit of those who think the status quo should be maintained. But then we are living in a dynamic world, and the security exigencies of the world are quite fluid. So therefore, for Africa to have up to 54 nations, and for us, most of the conflicts of the world, those conflicts are even the raison d'etre for the creation of the UN Security Council. Most of them happen here. Most genocides happen here. Most cases of starvation happen here. So as it were, on a face value, even though Africa is not a big player on the international scene, a lot of our leaders, those who have Pan-African leanings, have had cause to use such an important global stage like the UN General Assembly to raise concerns about the makeup of the UN Security Council. And again, 14 member states can have rotational membership. And at various times or epochs, Ghana has had the opportunity to be part of those rotational members. The only thing they don't enjoy is that they don't have the bully pulpit to veto any resolution. So it's just a cosmetic, conciliatory move that has been made to tamp down some of the concerns and complaints that have become a bit deafening in the past few decades.
All right. When we come back, we will listen to what President Akufo-Addo said. When we come back, I'll take your thought on it. I'm wondering, the main deliberatory organ of the UN is the General Assembly, of which membership is very democratic. I'm wondering if that is where deliberations take place, and that is very democratic. Why should Africans be worried about the Security Council and its undemocratic nature? But first, let's hear what our president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, had to say there.
For the first time, President Akufo-Addo is addressing the United Nations General Assembly. He first addressed the Assembly as Ghana's foreign minister in 2006 when the country was given a non-permanent status in the UN Security Council between 2005 and 2006. This time, however, Nana Akufo-Addo addressed the UN General Assembly as the President of Ghana. He touched on a myriad of issues from global politics, world peace and security, hunger, disaster and poverty. He said these issues must engage the attention of world leaders and receive a lasting solution. President Akufo-Addo, who is the co-chair of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, said these goals, if followed through, would lift many above the poverty line.
The images that have recently dominated our television screens of devastation caused by floods in Houston, Texas, in Dhaka, Bangladesh, in Mumbai, India, in Palpa, Nepal, in Dominica, Puerto Rico, Antigua and Barbuda, and St. Marta, all in the Caribbean, and in Niamey, Niger. As I watched and listened, along with the rest of the world, it occurred to me that all put together, the SDGs are indeed a worthwhile set of goals for the world.
He outlined his vision as a Ghanaian leader to the UN General Assembly, which includes building Ghana beyond aid.
We do not want to be a scar on anybody's conscience. We want to build an economy that is not dependent on charity and handouts. Long and bitter experience has taught us that no matter how generous the charity, we would remain poor. We want to build a Ghana which looks to the use of its own resources and their proper management as the way to engineer social and economic growth in our country. We want to build an economy that looks past commodities to position our country in the global marketplace. We are not disclaiming aid, but we do want to discard a mindset of dependency and living on handouts. We want to build a Ghana beyond aid. It is an easier platform on which to build sustainable relationships.
President Akufo-Addo expressed Ghana's commitment to play her part to support a world free of nuclear weapons.
A world free of nuclear weapons must be in all our collective interests.
As the foreign minister for Ghana in 2005, President Akufo-Addo spearheaded the crafting of the Ezulwini Consensus with the main aim of pushing for reforms in the UN Security Council to give Africa 2 permanent seats and 5 non-permanent seats in the council. And when he had the opportunity to address the General Assembly, this time as President of Ghana, he said the time is long overdue for Africa to have a permanent seat on the Security Council.
I say nothing new when I draw attention to the urgent need to reform this organization. It has been talked about and scheduled for a long time, but somehow we have never found the courage and the will to reform the United Nations. The time is long overdue to correct the long-standing injustice that the current structure and composition of the UN Security Council represent for the nations of Africa. We cannot continue to preach democracy and fairness around the world. We cannot insist on peace and justice around the world when our global organization is not seen by the majority of its members as having a structure that is just and fair. It is indeed seen by many as helping to perpetuate an unfair world order. This organization provides the best vehicle for the world to manage its many varied problems, and we would undermine its credibility and fail in our duty if we do not reform the United Nations. We dare not let ourselves and future generations down. The time for reform has come. I thank you very much for your attention.
Welcome back. This is live on GBC 24 and it's World View. Prof, you listen to our president. The first 2 issues he talked about can best be placed under the Economic and Social Council, which is very democratic, about 54 members there. Globally it is representative. He has no problem with that. The main deliberative organ, which is maybe the first organ that scholars normally talk about. Yeah. He has no problem with that. Security, he is worried. Why?
Well, I mean, it's a cause to worry about if indeed, because if you look at the Security Council within the UN, we suppose that that is the most powerful within the umbrella of UN. And indeed, UN is set up to promulgate in terms of peace among nations. And so if you have a particular charter that is for security, handling security matters, then there's a cause to worry about that one will prefer that you or the particular country will have a representation within that particular council. But I doubt if that one can happen anytime soon, because if you look at the countries that form the Security Council, it's not any country at all. I mean, if you look at the setup, these are countries that are, I would say, powerful within the continental world, that's within the globe. I mean, these are countries that have bread and guns. You cannot just go to have a representation on that Security Council without substantiating your value and your worth that you need to come to that particular council of. Other than that, any country at all can just rise up and say that they also need their representative. You see, the UN is a very big organ, okay, and a very big organization that, I mean, they try to preach very good things. And so, certainly, and if you look at international relations, and for that matter, let's even delve into international law, for example. Every country is sovereign. And in as much as every country is sovereign, every country is having a particular autonomy, okay? And the UN try to respect every particular president that is championing the cause of every country. But the Security Council, if you are not there, you cannot be there. And what my colleague was saying, this is Africa. We are calling Africa for us to be or for us to have a representation on that particular Security Council. The Africa itself, if you look at, apart from, let's say, maybe Ghana, that we think they are enjoying peace, most of the African countries are not enjoying peace. You have AU that is also trying to champion this particular cause, and we have not been able to solve our own security and peace that we seek to resolve. We have not been able to resolve it, and you want representation on this particular office. I'm for it if we will get, but it's not possible.
Is it that you think we don't trust ourselves and the internal organs within the continent?
It is not even only that. We are not ready. It's not only the trust. Africa is not ready for us to. Do we even look at the economic and whatever that His Excellency the President talk about? Do we even trade among ourselves? Not even ECOWAS. I said not even ECOWAS. We don't even trade among ourselves. We don't even see ourselves in terms of even security and peace that we seek to champion.
And let's wondering our boundary dispute, maritime dispute between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. I'm wondering if we didn't have a court within the continent to have,
there would have been chaos. And I heard that it was a good cause that the then president took the decision that we have to go to the international tribunal for us to for them to, because that will give us a free
credibility.
Exactly, because as they were trying to deliberate issue, it nearly disrupt the system and the trust that they have among ourselves. So I am saying that yes, the Security Council, we need a representative, but the point is that this is not the first time we are hearing this. This is not the first time an African leader has said this. They have said it over and over, and when we were listening to it, remember the reporter even said that His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who was then the foreign minister, even said it.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and it's not just by saying it. We have to be able to show the unity among ourselves. So for example, if he comes down, then one will expect that yes, you have to walk the talk that you have said. So the whole Africans, or even ECOWAS, we can have one strong voice and we can be powerful. Then you come to the whole of the African Union. We also have to be, when they all have this one voice, then the UN will begin to listen to them. But as we stand now, one president will say something, another president will not see the necessity and the importance of that particular representation. So it will happen that you may be preaching, but the unity among ourselves is not that strong for us to be there.
Mr. Kukujani, historically the fact remains that lots of injustices have been perpetrated against Africa. And when Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had the opportunity to address the UN in 1960, he remarked among others that Africa is not seeking vengeance. It is not our nature as Africans to seek malice. All we want is fairness. And at that time, he talked of the need for Africa to be represented.
Yeah.
Today, the same call is being made. Is it not the case that there is something in there that if Africa is represented there, we should be in the position to be benefiting from certain things that if we are not, we will not be getting?
Well, let me just first say that the president did well in the word of diplomacy. I mean, the UN is full of diplomats, and if he has to make speeches, it must lie within certain boundaries of diplomacy. Okay. So it was well done, you know. But, you know, the UN is a club of members who have common interests. They've, as it were, financial wealth, they've locked it up themselves, and they know how to do business together. If you want to join them, then pay your bills. I mean, I think at the G20, Mr. Trump was telling them, you guys will have to pay your bills, otherwise we'll have to rethink the UN. The Americans who have a big hand in who becomes the UN Secretary General. So it's a club that is headed by America. And they make decisions as they want it, unfair as it may be. And the way the the global finance and politics is structured, we will have to find our own methodologies and own strategies, like the Chinese have done. The Chinese experience is an excellent example of how you can dribble your way to the top without having to listen to what the Western world and its allies say all the time. We have to listen more and copy more of how China got to where it's got. Only 30 years ago, China was being classified as a country with no hope. 10 years ago, it was developing plastic, papers and stuff. Today, technology is very big, and they are second in the world in terms of economy. It tells you that they have a secret that we need to learn from.
That remains a major issue, the two schools of thought. Those that think that you can get there through economic might.
Of course.
And from the way our president is saying, and from the way the Western powers, particularly the 5 permanent members, like, get the military power there first. And with that, you can get the economy. But you think we should get the economy first?
Well,
before we move out?
You can do both together. To get money to do military, but it's huge money. Huge. America spent $1 trillion, nearly $1 trillion on military budgets this year.
Yeah, and I heard the UK Prime Minister yesterday.
Yes. So we are talking big,
we have a very big defense budget.
So we have to be clever. We have to be very clever and find methodologies and algorithms that get it to make money. And these are things that, you know, if politicians can't do it, we'll have to have think tanks that can think and bring out programs and activities that can get into the world stage, into the international stage. We have a lot of diaspora people living outside Ghana who have excellent, you know, resources, intelligence and scripts and networking at Capitol Hill that you can ask them to do things for us. We from here, when you go to America, it's very difficult for you to deal with a congressman without understanding his language. So we need the diaspora to be part of this script. And that will change our format at the UN. When we get there, they know that these boys understand the script and they know what they're talking about.
Very bad. From 1945, and I remember reading the speech of President Woodrow Wilson. It was like, that war was the war to end all wars. And probably the UN was a body to ensure that we have global peace.
Exactly.
The ideals behind the UN are that of liberalist ideals. But when it comes to the Security Council, it's kind of realist ideals. Is that organ itself not a problem if we want to get global peace and not to repeat what happened First and Second World Wars?
I think what Daddy just said is nuanced by the sheer exclusivity of the UN Security Council. It's just like eating at the table of men. If you aren't man enough, then you can't join that table. And your weight as a country in the international community depends upon the size of your economy and the size of your military. For all you know, of all the African countries we are saying, even if they say they are giving us one permanent slot on the new UN Security Council, I don't think there will even be consensus as to who should represent us. Will it be South Africa, or it will be Nigeria or Egypt?
Well, I'm sure we can address that. We can, let's say, AU, whoever occupies AU chair, should represent us.
No. Forget the AU. Forget the AU.
There is no hope in the AU. Your headquarters, why are you asking of permanent, membership at when your headquarters for a continental body is doled out to you by China? You aren't serious in the first place.
There's nothing wrong with getting a gift from China.
Not a gift of this magnitude. You understand? So you can't go cap in hand. We are the countries that go for IMF bailouts all the time. So there isn't any sense of urgency or preparedness on our part to sit at that table of men.
Is it not part of the historical injustices that are quite responsible for the level of depravity we have on the continent? Listen to our president. Look, we do not want to be going about our cap begging for aids and handouts. We want fairness, and with that fairness we can move up there.
Contrary to conventional knowledge, Daddy underpinned the fact that you should be as diplomatic as possible on such sensitive world stages. Okay. And I'm a bit disappointed that as a country, we are jettisoning a very great vision that Dr. Nkrumah had, that as a country we could go nuclear. I don't understand why the IAEA and the rest of the international community will ask us to denuclearize or deproliferate in terms of nuclear or uranium enrichment, while they continue to build arsenals of nuclear warheads. And I think, I wouldn't say His Excellency sold out, quote unquote, but I think, I didn't know Ghana even had enriched uranium. And when you peruse the transcript of the speech of the president, it tells you the final tranche of enriched uranium was shipped out of this country into China in the past 3 weeks. Yeah. So therefore, we are struggling with doomsday in the first place. What nuclear energy does is that it can fuel many of your facilities forever. Submarines set sail and they remain at sea for 6 months. They don't need petrol. They are powered by nuclear energy. And in a very fluid world, not now, half a century from now, the only guarantee every sovereign country will have to protect its sovereignty and territorial integrity is to have nuclear weapons. So for me, it beats my imagination. Look, all the permanent members of the UN Security Council have had something to show.
Of course.
They stood up and they've been counted. If you don't stand up, you won't be counted. So therefore, I think fundamentally we should look at, coalescing in the first place, just as Prof said, at the sub-regional level. What level of cooperation is there between and among ECOWAS countries, countries of SADC, countries of IGAD, even North Africans? Many of them see themselves as Middle Eastern or French than African. In the face of these myriad challenges, when you are, striking discordant tunes, the world cannot take you serious by giving you such an important permanent membership at the UN Security Council. So we should get our acts together, then we can stand up and be counted.
Prof, beyond Africa, a body that has 193 members in terms of countries, with only 5 as permanent, can that body be said to be fair?
There is no fairness in the world. The world itself it's not fair. So, in as much as the body is trying to justify a particular cause and whatever, I mean, we cannot just say that whether it's fair or it's not fair. But you see, in terms of fairness, this organization is set up for a particular purpose and objective. In as much as they feel that they can achieve the objective by bringing certain people on board, they will bring them on board, because that objective has to be achieved, and that aim has to be achieved. And so in as much as the 195 or whatever members that they have, I mean, consider the fact that, let's say, there are a lot of, this for a purpose of an example, there are a lot of Ghanaian players in Ghana, but they select few to go and play for Black Star, even though those that they've selected might not be even the best in the country. So in terms of even the UN itself, there must be people, or there must be countries that will be seen as countries that they can put them together to think for the world. All of them cannot be together to think for the world. And that is why they have sub-charters and whatever. But sometimes in the key areas, like, let's say, the Security Council, you need people. When assuming that they say that, okay, there is no going to be war in a particular country. Look, don't forget the Iraq war. The UN voted against it, but US decided to go. Assuming today Trump decided that he wants to go to war with North Korea, I'm sure the UN will vote against it, because their main purpose is to preach peace and security, and they will go, because US is having some power within even the Security Council, within the UN. They have a particular power. Why? Because of their economic quantum or influence that they bring on board because of their superpower in terms of military acumen that they bring on board. And so their voice will be heard. Because if you were why is that Ghana is not coming out to say that they are going to, we all disagree with what the North Korean president is doing, but Ghana cannot come out because Ghana can never sanction North Korea. For what reason? What can Ghana do to sanction North Korea? So the poor cannot have a voice in democracy? Because that is why the Trump can come out to say that we are sanctioning them because of the power. So if we need a representation or we want the thing to be fair, we have to wash our hands. We have to know how to wash our hands with the elderly so that we walk the talk and get there. Other than that, we will just be reading speeches and say, oh, it will go to dead ears. It will not.
Mr. Kukujani, we have China, we have Russia, we have US, we have UK, and I think there's one more country. France, yes. These are not the only powerful bodies or countries in the world, but they have permanent slot there. I'm not hearing Israel, but Israel is very powerful.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing other powerful countries. They are not complaining.
Israel might be powerful in terms of maybe guns, but look at economic as well.
So if others are not clamoring to be there, why should Africa be clamoring to be there?
Well, Israel has leveraged itself onto the world stage. They've used the Holocaust that they claim Hitler placed on them to have been on the world stage.
Okay.
The Americans picked it after the World War, and they've loved them up till now. They have a marriage of convenience. So they've been able to do well for that. That is a script that they planned and implemented and worked well for them. So every country has to have a holistic approach as to how to get into the global stage and center yourself somewhere where you can also have the power to jostle around. You understand? And for as long as we live in Ghana thinking that, well, you know, somebody has done and we have, no. We'll have to develop a script, a whole new script to move on to the next stage. When I scan the system, I see people are eager to move into the next stage. The talk is enough.
Will you be allowed to do that?
Well,
there are countries that are trying to come out with nuclear weapons. They are being prevented.
No, I'm talking about how you move the country from one stage to the other in terms of social development so that the poverty will subside. The poverty is too much. And the capitalist world is a dog-eat-dog affair. Americans cannot come in with their money, which they borrow from the World Bank, some company, to come and dish it out for you for free. If he comes, he wants profit, and it was huge profit.
Now with that zero-sum game mentality, how do you climb up there?
That is why I'm talking. That's why I'm talking about the new scripts. A new script that experts will have to sit down, look at historical antecedents, look at your strengths and ways and means of getting into the West. It is possible. Malaysia, them have done it. South Korea, them have done it. Other countries have done it. We are just not thinking out of the box, and we have to be able to sit down. Maybe the politics is too much. The politics is just too much. And if we can just sit down and talk and converse about how Ghana can go forward and collaborate with our diasporas outside the country, who have many, who have a lot of resources that we
before one can do that, the tenure of office of African leaders matter. Germans will be voting tomorrow,
right?
And Angela is going for the 4th term.
Yes. Yeah.
Nobody is complaining. Let an African leader decide to go, and there will be problems. And we all know that sometimes when you are there for some time, you are able to take good decisions. If they are good, they will be good. If they are bad, they will be bad. But you will not be allowed to do that.
That's an excellent point. That's another issue that we also need to look at. And we need to talk about the law of affairs. That will give us proper directions and tools to get to where we want to get to. Because you find for 4 years, maybe it's not good enough. You need, Malaysia, some of them took 20 years to get to where they were. One party get it on for a long period of time. In fact, the Karl Marx system, which is a socialist system, is working very well across the world now. The capitalist system seems to be falling apart. So we need to review ourselves, evaluate ourselves, the models that we use, from the time of independence are old models. They don't work no more. The IMF, the World Bank, and all this, they don't work. We have to develop new strategies to get into the next phase of development.
You think we don't know that and we still go to them?
Well, if you know, why you're not doing it?
No, I think we know, but the point is that
how to do it.
Exactly. Sometimes we put ourselves in a particular corner that we have no choice. We tie our hands at our back. We have no choice but to go.
Strong leadership.
We've had other alternatives. Military leaders who decided to ignore these things and let's print the currencies, and it was a mess.
Look at where it got us.
Yes, but you see, from where let's say he landed, you see, maybe we have to look at the influence of the, let's say, the blind politics in code, because here is the country, and for that matter, let's say in Africa, I mean, so far as you belong to a particular party, whatever you will do, you will never get a support from another political party. And they will try. Look at even His Excellency, the President's speech. Yeah. People are saying it's good, others are saying it's not good. Sometimes I sit back and say, what does speech got to do with politics?
With getting food to eat.
What does speech is, to tell the truth, before, I mean, His Excellency mounted the podium, I knew that his speech would be good. The reason is that he is good at speeches. Yeah. He is good at writing good speeches and whatever. But that does not matter anything. I didn't spend time to even listen to him as live, because I knew that the speech would be good. But it's not the speech that would turn things around. It is the working and then how to evaluate the speech and make sure that it works.
And whilst talking about the power of the UN, US President Donald Trump, when he took the podium, all ears were him and people wanted to hear what he would say. And of course, he didn't mince words. As usual, he was elected to represent the interests of Americans. And so he spoke what was in the interest of Americans. Let's listen to what Donald Trump said. After that, we look at his utterances towards America. We discuss the utterance towards North Korea and the response from the North Korean leader. President Trump, let's hear you.
No one has shown more contempt for other nations and for the well-being of their own people than the depraved regime in North Korea. It is responsible for the starvation deaths of millions of North Koreans and for the imprisonment, torture, killing, and oppression of countless more. We were all witness to the regime's deadly abuse when an innocent American college student, Otto Warmbier, was returned to America only to die a few days later. We saw it in the assassination of the dictator's brother using banned nerve agents in an international airport. We know it kidnapped a sweet 13-year-old Japanese girl from a beach in her own country to enslave her as a language tutor for North Korea's spies. If this is not twisted enough, now North Korea's reckless pursuit of nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles threatens the entire world with unthinkable loss of human life. It is an outrage that some nations would not only trade with such a regime, but would arm, supply, and financially support a country that imperils the world with nuclear conflict. No nation on earth has an interest in seeing this band of criminals arm itself with nuclear weapons and missiles. The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. The United States is ready, willing and able, but hopefully this will not be necessary. That's what the United Nations is all about. That's what the United Nations is for. Let's see how they do. It is time for North Korea to realize that the denuclearization is its only acceptable future. The United Nations Security Council recently held 2 unanimous 15-0 votes adopting hard-hitting resolutions against North Korea, and I want to thank China and Russia for joining the vote to impose sanctions along with all of the other members of the Security Council. Thank you to all involved. But we must do much more. It is time for all nations to work together to isolate the Kim regime until it ceases its hostile behavior.
Well, I don't know how you feel, but I'm confused. I don't know what this speech means. And before President Trump spoke, the representative of North Korea had walked out before this speech. Maybe because the anticipation was that President Trump was going to attack North Korea, in verbal attack. But about 30 minutes ago, sorry, 3 hours ago, the North Korean foreign minister also spoke, and full of abuse of the U.S. We don't know what this is leading us to, but we can all pray for peace. Mr. Gukujani, let me start with you.
Yes, I think, George, what you say, that the situation is getting very fluid. It's changing all the time. And I heard this abuse and insults being thrown at the American president, which I thought has taken us to a level where a mistake, only a mistake, can create a war now. And as we understand it, the Pentagon has also confirmed that there are some fighter jets and B-bombers skirmishing around the coast of North Korea. We will pray that somebody from the EU, one of these countries from the EU, I think Norway was being suggested, Switzerland was being suggested, to make some interventions and have a dialogue. These issues have happened before. The time of President Clinton, Mr. President Kim Jong-un's father behaved the same. But they used dialogue, they cajoled him, they bribed him, and kept him quiet. I think Obama, to run about the 2015, had similar issues with them. They were able to cool them down. But they've decided that they will use missiles to hold America to hostage. I don't know where this is going to lead to. So we think that for what is going on, it would be wise for dialogue. The economic sanctions are going on. China has got on board. It's now stopping to give oil and natural gas to North Korea and refusing to buy their textiles, which is a huge sum of money. So that will stifle what we call North Korea a little bit. I just hope that they don't push them too far to the wall. That allows them to do funny things.
Who pushes who?
The UN resolution that was passed that allows all the economic sanctions to bite North Korea.
Is it really biting? I mean,
oh, yes.
Technically speaking, if you are hungry, really hungry, you will not be going about testing weapons and coming out with sophisticated
when
ones.
sanctions start, big time is a problem, huge problem. So we are going to wait and see what happens. But
you see, the presence of U.S. this evening, the North Korean border, could it be because of what Kim Aung said after the speech? He also threatened to throw more missiles, launch more
Apparently,
missiles.
there's been a few skirmishes there, but not anything that was seen or the Pentagon talked about. But this is just to flex the muscle. That look, we are around here. We will not take your nonsense.
But why do you want to flex when I'm threatening to test my missiles and you are going to flex? And we are all men. Are you not invoking?
There's a strategy, plus the economic sanctions, and let's see how it goes. Dialogue, we say, should be the way forward.
Prof, is dialogue going to solve this problem?
Yes, it's going to be difficult. And you see, when you listen to Donald Trump, that's the president of the U.S., I mean, even though he said certain threatening messages,
yeah.
I mean, he brought up, but he also threw the challenge back to UN, that is what UN is made up of.
Yeah.
Let's see what they can do this time, you see. So it means that, yes, he's throwing the challenge there, because if you are trying to also bring out your muscle to show to the world that, yes, you are also powerful, U.S. will also try to let you know that no, we are the most powerful country in the world.
But he's saying, let's see what UN will do, and he admits that on 2 occasions, the UN has spoken against North Korea, but that hasn't stopped the guy from continuing with what he's doing.
That is why he's also keeping on throwing the challenge, and this time he has thrown a challenge also to UN, for UN to know that there is a possibility that he can retaliate to whatever the man is doing in North Korea if they don't come out quickly to resolve the situation. Because giving the sanction, yes, it means that the sanction is there, and whether it's working or not working, it is at the early stage yet. And you know, when you throw a sanction to a particular country, the president certainly, or the leader, will not have that so much feeling, because he's okay. He and the people around, they are okay. But the citizenry, they are the people going to be hungry. They are going to suffer the more. So if he keeps on doing it, even though he thinks that, yes, I'm a leader, I need to take a particular decision that will hold my country, will let my country know that, yes, we are powerful, and also in future to let the world know that we are not just a little country in this world, but we are powerful. So it's very, very key.
The future of U.S. North Korea, do you see it anarchic or peaceful?
It's anarchic, it's bleak, it doesn't bode well for international security. In fact, the escalated, rhetoric and saber rattling on both sides points to the fact that a potential confrontation is looming in the horizon. And again, George, there is no way the ruling elite of North Korea or in North Korea are going to back down. The international community has to rein them in.
Okay.
Sanctions seem not to be working.
Sure.
My assessment is that the North Korean military may not be as strong as they want to portray to the world. Maybe a few nuclear warheads and hydrogen bombs here and there. That is what you use to flex your muscles. But considering the fact that, yes, I understand it's a reclusive state. Nobody really knows what is happening in Pyongyang.
Yeah.
Cameras are not even allowed. Tourists are even chaperoned wherever they go. And they look askance at anybody that comes from the West. So you can't really gauge the pulse of the people there. You don't know their socioeconomic status. So therefore, you are only, and look at the missile tests. They only show you pictures of rockets going up in the air. You understand?
Whether it's serious or not, you can't tell.
They are stage managing this, and they are winning the media war against the international community. We need to be looking at options. What is the worst that can happen? Bombing a few nuclear facilities, in which case there will be a spillover, causing deaths that will run into hundreds of thousands or even millions. Letting these biting, sanctions continue for a while so that North Korea caves in from within. And attempts to buy off people around Kim Jong-un have failed woefully, because anybody he suspects of being compromised has gotten killed in recent years. So therefore, there is no way Kim Jong-un, who is about my age, there is no way, listening to the generals that served with his father, there is no way he is going to back down from what he is doing. Initially, as Mr. Zani pointed to, that yes, taking some cargo of oil or some food rations would let them back down. But now they have taken an entrenched position. North Korea feels emboldened, looking at the fissures within the U.S. state itself, that there is a lot of division. You know, in international security, you test the pulse of your adversary before you take certain decisions. And over time, North Korea has realized that the U.S. only rhetorically says it has the appetite and willingness to fight, but it is in itself not ready to fight North Korea. Why would you for so long, for decades on end, be asking China to talk to them, be asking Russia to talk to them? You are treating them with kid gloves. No, not when there is such provocation.
But you can't attack if you are for peace. Attack should be the last option.
The world was for peace when it attacked Iraq, only because there was an allegation that he had weapons of mass destruction. The world was for peace when it imposed the no-fly zone and then caused the torpedoing of the Gaddafi regime. The world has a problem on its hands, and the problem is North Korea. And the earlier we started thinking of all options being on the table, the better it will be for us.
All right. Unfortunately, our time is running up and we have to wrap up all too soon. The discussion is becoming interesting. But, well, let me take your last submission on this issue.
It's not a superpower, but it's been able to lock the whole world's attention, and especially the American president. I hope that somehow common sense will prevail. They'll get themselves onto the table and talk, and if they have to bribe him and contain him and cajole him, that's what they need to do with this man. Nothing more than that.
Prof.
Well, this is not the first time North Korea is trying to tell the world that yes, they are also powerful in terms of the saying of the world. This is not the first time, and we know for sure that as my colleague has said, it's not going to be easy for them to bow down. It's not because it means that yes, they have lost or something, and it's not going to be easy. We only hope that UN will intervene and use all its mechanisms to make sure that there is peace within the world and the global that we are all sharing at large. I mean, the UN should intervene at all costs, and I'm glad that all of them are members. That's the two states, that's the US and then the North Korea. They are part of the members of UN. So it means that UN as an organization can intervene.
The Foreign Affairs Minister has condemned the UN. So it's a gang of, he destroyed all of them. So I don't think a member would, that's why we are looking at other countries that are not perhaps active.
No, I'm not saying they should solve it among themselves, but what I'm saying is that at least the fortunate is that they all belongs to that organization. And so it means that if a member from that organization trying to solve the problem, it will...
But here's the case, North Korea sees that UN itself as...
They've been lobbied.
Now you belong to that particular organization.
The members were lobbied to take the decisions.
In my closing remarks, the ideal situation in such an instant of imbroglio is dialogue, diplomacy, just as Daddy has pointed to. But containment is not working with Kim Jong-un. So at some point, we have to take the bull by the horns. I think a grand military master plan involving a few millions of soldiers, taking North Korea by surprise in the dead of the night. On the
borders of China,
could potentially neutralize the current leadership and evacuate
Chinese troops already there.
Yes.
There are Chinese troops. I'm not sure they are there in the interest of
American soldiers there.
You see, at some point,
strategy.
Look, a grand master plan. What we fear is that when they go haywire, they can shoot nuclear missiles into
South Korea
or Japan. That is what we fear. But a grand master plan based upon very strong actionable intel.
Go and pick the guy out.
Look, you can neutralize the generals. And again, in the US, before the United States launched the Hiroshima and Nagasaki attacks, there is a unique pin code that is known to the president and a select few. So it's not like anybody in the North Korean army can launch a nuclear attack. So therefore, a grand master plan. And when I read between the lines, perhaps the US must be contemplating or mulling over that. Is an option, deploying a few millions of people and in a matter of hours in the dead of the night, neutralizing.
Well, that might not be easy as you think.
We hope diplomacy works. But for how long, Daddy? You are saying
not sleeping.
No, we should speak to North Korea. For how long will we continue to cajoling them?
Well, this is something we cannot all predict. I'm sure it's an intelligent issue. North Korea is not equally sleeping. They are thinking of what they are planning.
Frankly, take this from me. North Korea, on face value, may appear very strong, but perhaps it's not that strong. You may work. It's just like Tripoli. For so long, when the no-fly zone had been imposed on Libya, Bab el-Azizia, the seat of government, was bombed over time. But, you know, cities on the flanks of the capital, in the periphery, were very strong for the rebels to penetrate. But the moment they got to Tripoli, they walked into the residence of Gaddafi.
Thank you very much.
So therefore, on face value,
North Korea may look strong.
Our time is up. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming. We are very grateful. Irbad Ibrahim, Professor Emmanuel Osei-Siema, and Mr. Kuku Jani. I am George Asekinos, produced by Celestine Avia. Thank you to all the technical men and I believe women who made this program a success. God willing, same time next week, we will be here. Until then, continue to enjoy the rest of our programs and whilst celebrating Ghana's victory at the maritime dispute ruling. Thank you.